Hi. So welcome to the fourth class on course number 10, which is all about different types of psychotherapies that you might consider. There are some type of psychotherapies I'd like you to look into, and actually what I find really ideal is that these type of therapies are really good inserted into other types of modalities. So you have what's called EMDR and EFT and then tapping. These are three different tools that are related to a lot of other tools as well. EMDR is very bizarre, but it's very simple. In fact, EMDR is it's just kind of bizarre how it works. It's very simple how it works. And no one actually really knows what's happening when we know that it works. So EMDR has the opportunity of you being able to, how do I describe? It is the way you can visit intense emotions about all or part of a traumatic event or traumatic moment. So you can take a moment, an abusive moment, a traumatic feeling, a strong feeling, and with the use of fingers, stimulations, patting, all sorts of different ways that can work depending on who you are. If you're visual, if you're kinesthetic, there's a way of where they feel like they are actually triggering one hemisphere of the brain and the other hemisphere of the brain going back and forth and back and forth. I'm simplifying this because this type of approach has been shown to be helpful with traumatic intense reactions, a car accident and all the emotions associated to that. But it is also applicable to taking down intense emotions and experiences and memories where you can just like focus on a section of it at a time and then kind of neutralize it. The experience of this is as if those emotions surrounding the thought are not as palpable, they're not as intense, they're kind of numbed, almost as if the brain got a little bit bored with having, your brain and body, with having such intense emotional reactions to the events. So that individuals will remember the events, even remember the emotions, even be able to feel the emotions, but they don't still seem to be off the Richter scale. Instead, they're kind of manageable and within kind of a numbed sort of experience, and that helps people move on. I think EMDR has an awful lot to offer, but it is a bit confusing as to why it works and how it works, and actually used in the hands of a novice, it can have an impact, but we find that the research is that combining EMDR moments in the context of an in-depth and interpersonal sound, healthy relationship with a therapist is actually more beneficial than just going in, having an EMDR session, and then popping out. There are people that contact me and all they want is EMDR, and we can do that. But in the context of a profound relationship, the EMDR is much more effective. Okay, well, you can look it up a little bit more. I'm not going to tell you what EMDR stands for because by now that's what you can search for online. Now, EFT and tapping, emotional freedom techniques and tapping are kind of come in hand. Often people say tapping and EFT are the same thing in the moment, but actually they're ways of programming. They're kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy, attached to acupuncture, meridian points. So it's associated to the idea that your biology, your neurology stores what you've gone through and you can release the intensity of your feelings. And again, these are about releasing the intensity of what you feel in a negative way towards something, some attitude you have, some event that's gone into your life. And the tapping sequences are prescribed, and they are: one, you tap this, and then you tap here, and then you tap under here, and then you tap here, and you might tap your jaws if you want. You might tap here, you tap your collarbones, or the space in between, underneath your armpits, underneath where your brow line is for women, or the middle of your chest, underneath your arms on both sides, and then also a way of tapping into your wrist, into different parts of your finger, and there are different ways of doing it, and there's some that say that it's very efficient to just go ahead and squeeze all of your wrist. And how many times you do it? Well, the guideline is that you do it 8 times minimum, whatever spot you're in the midst of it. And simultaneously do 2 things. One, you hold the emotion, the negative emotion around what you're experiencing, and you make statements to each of those emotions, and you choose one at a time while you're tapping on that emotion. I'm going to show you something so simple. I'm afraid to earn money. So even though I'm afraid to earn money, I forgive myself and know that I'm going to work this through. Even though I'm afraid to earn money, I forgive myself and I'm going to work this through. And then they just continue to do the tapping. And they continue to rotate the tapping over and over again until it feels like the fear of it is not that big of a deal and that you can move on. Now that example is nothing to do with abuse and trauma, but what we do find is that being able to go through this tapping is really helpful to put into place when you're in the middle of having anxiety or panic, where you have developed a phrase with your therapist that you can tap on while you're feeling anxious or panicked. It also seems to be helpful when you're having depressive thoughts or obsessive thoughts or compulsive sort of activities where you stop yourself and you start basically essentially stimulating the meridian points, the acupunctural points in your body that actually seem to turn on endorphins, maybe help release the serotonin or the use of serotonin or dopamine. So there seems to be some sort of neurological and biochemical reaction that this also seems to create along with EMDR, along with biofeedback, along with neurobiofeedback. The truth is, all therapies help your physiology. Okay? These are focused on the cognitive statements, the emotional feelings, and then being able to try to stimulate the parts of your body that are most advantageous to helping you. The research on this is interesting. I do find that this practice, though, is actually most helpful because it inserts a much healthier perspective, it reframes, and it stops you from going down an unhealthy pattern. That's very helpful. And so that ability to stop, this is what I'm thinking, I'm going to go this direction, I'm going to go through this exercise is very helpful. And for some people, it's more helpful than mindfulness practice or meditations. But the truth is, these are also mindful and meditative practices because you're focusing your body, your movement, your mind, your feelings, and your words into framing something in a constructive fashion for yourself. Also, what I appreciate about EFT is that most of the times when they help you construct a sentence that you say to yourself over and over again, and you can change it as you continue to do it over and over and make it a better, more healthy statement. But most of the time, it is all about accepting what you feel, releasing yourself from any sorts of shame and embarrassment, which is really not helpful at all, and then moves you into trying to adapt yourself to having a better reaction to what you're going through. So that's kind of a form of self-respect and self-love as well. Okay, we're going to go on to the next set of therapies. See you there.